Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy, the real Shevy. You already know another episode of Get Real, which stands for real estate as a lifestyle. Over here, every day we wake up, grind, and repeat. A lot of you guys watched the Flip Man video and been asking about subject to owner finance, how we've been able to do creative real estate as far as picking up so many properties. In spite of the 6 months, we've been able to actually pick up well over 12 doors right now that we're on. So stay tuned. We're going to walk you guys through what is a subject to, how do you do a subject to, what different exit strategies do you use. That's going to be a life changer and a game changer for you and your business. Let's go.
Real advice, real money, real boss. It's real talk. Real talk, real Chevy, real boss, real advice, real moves. Don't watch, you lose, get leads, find deals. Real Chevy, got skills, real value with low cost. Real Chevy with real talk, yeah. It's real talk. It's real talk.
Just as a disclaimer, guys, the results that I get from my business is based on my market in itself. So if you want to do a subject to in your market, you have to look into your state laws, your city laws. The contracts that I use is pertain to here locally, the state of Louisiana. So you just have to do your due diligence to make sure that all the training and paperwork that's given to you, if you do want to reach out for some advice or for coaching or whatever the case may be, you still have to do your due diligence to make sure that this information works for your area as well. Guys, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cover a subject to. Simply put, when it comes to a subject to deal, the mortgage stays in the seller's name, but you get the deed to the property without you going to the banks to get a loan, to pay off the note or anything. So the mortgage stays in the seller's name and the house is yours based on transfer of deeds. In good faith though, you being an investor, you being someone that's building credibility, if you make a negotiation with a seller to actually take over the note as far as paying it subject to the existing financing in itself, you got to make sure you keep your word and go ahead and continue to do that. Now we're going to touch on who can actually do a subject to deal. Meaning as an investor. Simply put, guys, anybody can do a subject to deal. Whether you have cash or you don't have no cash, or you have a realtor license, no realtor license, whether you have a college education, no college education, a simple guy, even a homeless person off the street could learn about a subject to and able to do a subject to in itself. So anybody can do a subject to. There's no limitation to how many properties you can actually take over subject to the existing financing, because on paper, you're not the actual owner when it comes to the debt itself, but you're the owner of the property. So now we're going to touch on when should you do a subject to deal. Understand that subject to is more of an advanced way to actually be creative when it comes to real estate. So my advice for you guys is to get a few deals under your belt as far as when it comes to the wholesaling model. Make sure you understand the whole process as far as putting the property under contract, getting the title company involved, doing the title search, having an end buyer at the end, collecting your assignment fee. Do that a couple of times so this way you have some type of money saved up. Because in the subject to deal, you're going to still need to take care of that note, regardless of if you have somebody in the property or not. Also, at the same time, whenever a deal doesn't fit the wholesaling model, subject to is definitely going to come in play. So let's just say the property has no equity, the property is not able to actually sell to, let's just say, typical investor. We have to go the more of a creative route. That's when the subject to would come in play. Whenever even if there is some back payment needs to be paid where the seller owes money to the banks, and it needs to get caught up for it to actually be reinstated. The note needs to be reinstated. That's a good way to actually also do a subject to deal. Whenever, let's just say the house is actually have a mortgage and it's underwater, meaning it's upside down, so there's no equity whatsoever. And if the seller was to sell the property, they would have to show up to closing with money. That's also perfect for a subject to deal. So there's going to be high motivation. They just want to get rid of the property. They want to get from out of the note. That's when it's time to do a subject to deal. All right, guys. Now we're going to cover the why as far as a subject to deal. Understand, guys, that in this real estate space, you don't ever want to leave no money on the table. So if you learn how to do subject to, it's going to be great for you because A, you're not going to leave no money on the table, and B, you're going to be able to help the sellers out where everybody else that shows up and they're not able to help the seller, you can now become that specialist when it comes to doing subject to in itself. So the last deal that I had, the seller in itself, she actually have a bigger family, so her family is growing, and she actually wanted to move and buy something bigger for her family. So the note was current, so there was nothing that was behind. The property wasn't worth much because there was no equity in the property. So it was perfect for me to come in and say, hey, look, how about if I just step in and take over the note? You're going to still keep it in your name. We're just going to pay for it, and you deed over the house to us. So you don't have to play no landlord. You don't have to worry about no tenant. You get to walk away with no problem. We're going to make sure that we maintain the property and we pay the mortgage note. No sweat on your back at all. And she said, yes, let's do it. And now you have to fully explain everything to the seller as far as how the subject to work. All right, guys, now we're going to touch on how to actually do a subject to deal. First off, understand that your leads are going to come through wholesaling, but it just doesn't fit the wholesaling formula. Therefore, it's going to fall into the subject to bucket. Now we're going to touch on how we're able to do it. It is going to be where you have paperwork between you and the seller. Once they understand what is a subject to deal, now there's paperwork put in place to where there is a purchase contract. Not only there's a purchase contract, but there's what is called a CYA, which is cover your butt contract, where it's just a seller's affidavit where they understand that they're actually conveying over the house subject to the existing note. We're not assuming anything at all. They're still responsible for that actual note itself, but we're the one that's going to be paying it. So the banks doesn't know as far as what's going on. They don't care either because all they want to know is just that they're getting paid. As long as they're getting paid, they're fine. So you just have to explain to the seller that, hey, look, we're going to take over the debt services. You're going to keep everything in your name except for the house. The house is going to be actually deeded over. So when I say they're going to keep everything in their name, I'm talking about the actual mortgage itself. That stays in the seller's name, and you're going to be taking over the payments, and they're going to deed over the house to you. Therefore, it's called subject to the existing financing. Now, on top of that, there's two ways to actually do a sub to. You can actually do it where it's just between you and the seller. Not really much layers of protection. If the bank sees it, they could call the note due. Or you can actually create a land trust. The land trust actually have layers of protection to where the banks just see that the title, the property is actually held in a land trust. So anybody can actually be the owner of the land trust in itself. So that's why it's actually more protection overall, because once again, the banks don't care where the money is coming from, but they don't like to see a seller transferring a deed to another person. They'd rather see something in the trust where it's extra layers of protection in itself. And I'll touch on land trusts a little bit later on. Monster at it, by the way. Stay tuned. Guys, understand when it comes to closing a sub-2 deal, You really don't need a title company or a closing attorney to actually close your subject to deals. All you need is an actual notary to bear witness that the seller understands what they're getting themselves into. So the notary is going to be the one that's going to be overseeing all the paperwork to make sure that the seller is competent and understand what they're doing in itself. The only time that I actually use the title company is to actually do a limited title search, just to make sure that what the seller told me was on the note is actually what's on the note. So the mortgage that's in place, or maybe they have a lien, or whatever the case may be, but I'm doing a limited title search so I can see what all is going on with the title as far as the actual property in itself. Understand that you as an investor have to find someone to actually live in the property, because you, the investor, is not going to live in the property unless you like the property. You're going to take it for yourself. But if it's a deal where you're looking for someone to actually be in the property, what you want to do is start marketing it. So you want to start market the property either as a owner finance or lease option or just a regular rental property, but you want to find someone that's going to be able to make those payments, so you're creating income in between. So let's just say you market the property where it's a lease to own. So what you're going to do is find someone to bring a down payment. Then whatever is the mortgage payment, you're going to add on a little bit in between, whether it's $200, $300, $400, $500 in between. So hypothetically speaking, let's just say the mortgage is $500. You're going to find someone that's going to bring, say, $5,000 down, and they're going to pay $700 or $800 a month. And then on the back end, you're going to add an additional $10,000 or $15,000. So this way you're making money up front, you're making money in the middle, and you're making money on the end. So you're making money 3 different ways when it comes to doing a subject to deal. So if this fits that criteria, as far as those 3 different ways, that definitely falls into a subject to bucket as well. You need to find someone that qualifies to buy the house. Once they buy the house, they pay off everybody, the seller and yourself. You're making money, the seller is out the way, you're good to go. Once again, guys, I hope this information was of great value to you. Understand that anybody can do a subject to deal, but my advice for you is to make sure that you have a few deals under your belt as far as when it comes to wholesaling or just a couple different real estate transactions, because subject to is a beast of its own. Not only that, but if you did find value in this information, guys, you can always reach out by hitting the subscribe button as well as the notification, because we're going to have more videos on subject to. Also, follow us on Instagram as well, The Real Shevy, right? So TheRealShevy. Also, hit me up on Facebook. I'm on Facebook providing tons of content to the real estate community overall itself. Don't forget, guys, it's your boy, The Real Shevy. Once again, real estate as a lifestyle. Get real. You already know.